May I add something to this? There was, the Soviets established a special commission following World War II to deal with the crimes that were perpetrated in Lviv Oblast. They came down with a report. In that report, they even provided names of perps. There isn't a single OUN leader, nor is OUN on that list. Soviet prosecutor, Procurator Роман Руденко, in 1946, submitted these findings to the Nuremberg Tribunal. These findings were a part of the Nuremberg record. Don't you think that had OUN or Bandera been guilty of war, Lozynskyj been guilty of war crimes, don't you think that a friend of theirs, like Soviet Procurator Roman Rudenko, would have insisted that they be charged and punished, or maybe not executed, but punished? There isn't a single reference to them. Now, with all due respect to your scholarship, Professor, which frankly speaking, I'm not impressed by, the seminal work on the destruction of the European Jews was done in 3 editions and 3 volumes by Raul Hilberg. You quote him in defining what a pogrom was. There is no one better than Raul Hilberg. There is no one more of an expert. In his entire 3 volumes, he mentions the OUN, the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, 1 time, and never in connection with any atrocity or any pogrom. Eyewitness accounts, a 1,000-page book written by Martin Gilbert. He collected numerous testimony. Also, coming up short of any indictment or even accusation against the OUN. In fact, interestingly enough, Raul Hilberg relied on German documents primarily, and he, to a large degree, he poo-pooed eyewitness testimony. But he relied on German documents, and in one of his documents, he specifically says how the Germans bemoaned the fact that Ukrainians were not cooperative, that Ukrainians were not doing their part in the extermination of Jews. This is coming from, with all due respect, Professor, a scholar on the Holocaust who is more established and more renowned than you. Yet, you quote Hilberg in your paper 1 time only in defining what a pogrom is. All right? That's it. And yet, you contort that definition. Because pogroms, according to Raul Hilberg, are an action, sporadic action, that is done by the spilnota, by the society where the local population is found. Here you're suggesting that the Lviv pogrom was perpetrated essentially by people who were coming from Kharkov. Kharkov, yes, because the OUN leadership was coming from Krakow, rather. Krakow. Sorry, Kharkov is a Russian version of Kharkiv, right? Krakow. That's where they were coming from, all right? And then they used, apparently, the local personnel. Yet, that's not a pogrom. In any event, no one supports that version of the facts. Neither Raul Hilberg, neither Martin Gilbert, neither the Special Soviet Commission. Even Procurator Rudenko didn't agree with you.
First, on the Soviet Commission, I've seen the document often quoted, and Stepan Bandera likes to quote it, about who's responsible for the violence for war crimes in Lviv. And usually, if you look at that, you can discover that most of them are Germans. I think almost all of them are Germans. Hans Frank is on there, although Hans Frank did not gain jurisdiction over District Galician until in August, while the pogrom occurred in July. And if you look at that commission, it has a number of levels. So one level is the local level. At the most local level, they do interviews and things like that. Then they go up to the oblast level, and then they go up to the Republican level, and then they go to the all-Soviet level. What you see is the all-Soviet level. If you look at the investigations that lead up to it on the more local levels, you will find lots and lots of OUN people in them. Yes, these documents are available. Second of all, about that document, I'll say this, that the Soviets at this time for Nuremberg were not interested in revealing anything about collaboration in their own territory. They did not do that until much later, and that is because they were going to present Germany with a bill. Every murder was the Germans and their helpers. But it was always ascribed to the Germans. I have a great case in the town of Hremailio, where the Viking, the Waffen-SS Division Viking, and the OUN collaborated on murdering a great number of Jewish inhabitants in the town of Hremailio. And in the Soviet documentation of this pogrom, they claim that a certain Landau was involved in it. But in fact, that person was in a hospital and not even had reached Hremailio at that point in his career. So, the Soviet commissions have to be taken in context. It's not a question of forensics, it's a question of putting things together. As for Raul Hilberg, I've read his book. He was inspiring me right at the beginning of my studies of this. Actually, my supervisor made me read it when I was, in the 60s, late 60s. It had been written in 1961. But
there are 3 editions.
Yeah, I know.
It was subsequently updated.
Yeah,
in 1983 and then again in 2003.
You don't have to tell me the basics of Holocaust research. I actually know them. And as for Hilberg, he worked with the German documents, which gave him a German view of the Holocaust. But he didn't know any East European languages, and he didn't know much about East European history. He has that document which you mentioned about how difficult it is to get the Ukrainians riled up, and that refers to Zhytomyr, where there was no local OUN.
It does not.
It does.
It refers to Західна Україна.
Read it again. It's from Zhytomyr.
Yeah, it's specific. I read it again after your interview previously.
Yeah, and Hilberg's method of not using eyewitnesses was something that was very common in the early 60s. Hannah Arendt also wouldn't use eyewitness testimony or rely on it. They felt that only the German documents told the story, but that's simply not true. And I think that the big change in Holocaust research has been in incorporating eyewitness accounts to figure out what happened, because the German documents are not interested in certain things. They are a source, not the full source. So that's how I would respond to this.